Welcome back to the Deep Dive. It is Thursday, January 22nd, 2026. If you're listening to this, you're probably multitasking, maybe driving, doing dishes, or trying to ignore that Slack notification that just went off. You're juggling a dozen different priorities, work, family, trying to stay relevant in a career that feels like it changes every 6 months, and you are just looking for the signal and the noise. Today, we're doing something a little different. We aren't just looking at one topic. We're connecting the dots between how we manage our daily lives, like right now, inside our homes, how we learn, and where the entire global economy is heading over the next 4 years.
It sounds like a massive scope, doesn't it? I mean, trying to cover the kitchen table and the boardroom in, one breath. But when you look at the stack of sources we have today, a very clear narrative emerges. It's a story about structure. We're looking at how structure, whether it's a sticky note on a fridge or a complex autonomous AI agent in the cloud, is becoming the defining tool for navigating complexity.
Exactly. And we have quite the stack to get through. We've got a practical guide on family project management from Any.do, a massive deep dive into classroom psychology from the Australian Education Research Organization, or AERO, some fascinating analysis on project-based learning, and then some serious future-looking reports on higher ed and the AI workforce of 2030.
The mission for this deep dive is really to explore how we move from chaos to clarity. We're seeing a through line where the skills you use to get your kids to do their chores are surprisingly similar to the skills required to lead a company in the age of AI.
That is a bold claim, but let's start with a question I think every parent listening wants the answer to first. Can a manufacturing tool from a car factory actually get your kids to do their chores without you having to nag them into oblivion?
Surprisingly, yes. We're talking about Kanban.
Kanban, okay. So for those who haven't spent time on a factory floor or maybe in a software startup, this came from Toyota, right?
It did. It's a visual scheduling system designed to improve flow, reduce waste. But the source from Any.do argues that running a modern household is, well, it's essentially complex project management. Think about it. Planning a vacation involves logistics, budgeting, multiple stakeholders. Renovating a kitchen, that's contractor management.
Or just the weekly meal plan, that's resource allocation. But usually we just call that mom's mental load or dad's stress headache.
Precisely. And that is where Kanban comes in to solve the actual psychological problem. The core benefit here isn't just getting the trash taken out. It's about visibility, and it's about offloading that mental burden. When you keep a to-do list in your head, you are the bottleneck. You're the manager, constantly delegating. But when you put a board up on the wall or on an app with columns like to do, doing, and done, you distribute the cognitive load.
So it's not just one person remembering everything.
Exactly. Everyone sees the same board. There is no more, I didn't know I was supposed to do that.
And there is something strangely satisfying about moving the card, isn't there? The source mentioned dopamine.
It is pure dopamine. It sounds trivial, but physically moving a sticky note or dragging a digital task from doing to done creates this visual momentum. It makes invisible work visible. For a kid or even an adult, that feedback loop is essential. It proves you achieved something.
Okay, but we've all tried those complicated productivity apps that feel like you need a certification just to log in. The guide makes a big point about family-friendly criteria. It has to be mobile first, right?
Yes, because you need to add milk when you're physically standing in the store. And it has to be simple enough for an 8-year-old. If the interface looks like an Excel spreadsheet, the family just isn't going to use it. It has to be low friction.
So let's run through the top recommendations from the stack.
Yeah.
First up was Any.bot. This one seems to be the hybrid option.
Any.bot is great because it understands that family life isn't just collaborative. You have your personal stuff, your work tasks, your own goals, and then you have the shared stuff.
Right.
It bridges that gap so you aren't toggling between two different lives. The standout feature mentioned here is location-based reminders.
Oh, I love that. So your phone buzzes, buy paint, the second you drive near Home Depot.
Exactly. It removes the need to remember until the moment it matters. That frees up your brain's processing power for other things.
Then there's Trello. This is the visual heavy hitter.
Yeah, Trello works well for the visual thinkers. The source highlights it for specific projects like vacation planning. You're not just writing, go to Disney. You're attaching photos of the attractions to the cards, maybe links to the hotel. It builds anticipation.
I can see that working. It turns the chore of planning into more of a vision board. Then there's Cozy, which they say is the only one built specifically for families.
Cozy is interesting because it uses a strict color coding system. Each family member gets a color. It's less about project management and more about immediate visual scanning. You look at the calendar, you see blue, you know that's you. You see green, that's dad. It just lowers the friction.
And for the people who want to run their house like a Fortune 500 tech company, there's Notion.
Notion is for the systems family. If you want a wiki for your house, where the shopping list links to the recipe which links to the calorie count, that's Notion. Incredibly powerful, but a very high setup time. You are basically building your own app.
There was a specific workflow example in the source that really clicked for me. It was about how to use these tools. The Saturday morning breakfast review.
Yes, this illustrates the shift from nagging to autonomy. The family sits down, the board is there, dad takes the fix fence card, the teen groans but grabs wash car because they want to use it later, and the 8-year-old excitedly grabs bake cookies.
See, that's the key. The 8-year-old isn't being told to bake cookies. They are claiming the task.
Autonomy is a powerful drug. When you claim a task, you own the outcome, and that actually transitions us perfectly to our next layer. If this structure helps at the kitchen table, it is absolutely critical in the classroom.
Right, because you can't have learning if you have chaos. We have this massive report from the Australian Education Research Organization, ARO, from December 2023. It dives deep into the psychology of the classroom.
This report is foundational. It moves away from the old school idea of discipline as just punishment and looks at behavior as a subject to be taught, just like math or reading. It anchors heavily on cognitive science, specifically the concept of working memory.
Let's unpack that. Working memory is the brain's scratch pad, right? The RAM.
Correct. And it is limited. So if a student is sitting in class trying to guess the rules, if I speak now, will I get in trouble? What is the teacher's mood today? Their working memory is flooded with anxiety. They have no cognitive space left to actually learn the lesson content.
That is a huge insight. Predictability frees up brain space.
Exactly. That's why explicit teaching of behavior is so important. You don't just assume kids know how to enter a room or ask for help. You model it. You practice it. It builds automaticity so they don't have to think about the behavior. They just do it.
The stats on this were pretty shocking. It said 39% of principals and teachers spend 20% of their day just managing behavior.
That is one full day a week. Imagine losing 20% of your productivity every single week just trying to get the environment settled enough to work. It's unsustainable.
The report introduces a concept called function-based thinking. This feels like a detective approach to behavior.
It creates a pause button. Instead of just reacting to a disruption, the teacher asks, what is the function of this behavior? Is the student acting out to escape a task that is too hard? Are they lacking executive function? Or is it a need for attention?
So if a kid is flipping a desk because they can't do the math problem, sending them to the principal's office to escape the math problem actually reinforces the behavior.
Precisely. You gave them exactly what they wanted, escape. Function-based thinking helps you address the root cause, not just the symptom. And for our listener, the learner, the takeaway is clear. A safe, predictable environment is the only place deep learning happens.
Okay, so we've organized the home with Kanban. We've stabilized the classroom with cognitive science. Now, what are we actually learning? This brings us to the shift toward project-based learning, or PBL. We're looking at sources from the Maury Chamber and KAI Global School here.
So we've established the safety net. Now we need the engagement. Project-based learning is moving away from rote memorization, memorize this date, regurgitate it on the test, toward acquiring knowledge through active exploration of real-world challenges.
The Gallup and Microsoft study cited here is fascinating. It talks about 21st century skills, collaboration, critical thinking. And the stat that jumped out at me, subjects with high development in these skills are twice as likely to have higher work quality later in life.
That is the long-term payoff. When you solve a complex problem in a group, you aren't just learning the subject matter. You're learning negotiation, time management, resilience. You're learning how to fail and try again.
And it connects to college readiness, too. It improves ACT and SAT performance because those tests are shifting to measure cognitive strategies, not just fact recall.
But here is where it gets really interesting. We have a source called Prequel that takes this idea of projects and pushes it to the absolute extreme.
Oh, this was the Ivy League reality check.
It is a splash of cold water. We all know the Ivy League acceptance rates are hovering around, 4%? But this source argues that college admissions are not random. That 4% is an average. If you are in the top 1% of real-world achievement, your acceptance rate can jump to over 75%.
That is a massive difference,
Hmm.
but they define achievement very specifically. It's not, I was president of the French club.
Right. They're very dismissive of the standard club officer path. They list things like, don't just join FBLA, which 500,000 kids do. Instead, build a startup. Don't just write for the school paper. Publish a book. Don't just do the science fair. Do published research.
They call them world-class standout masterpieces.
It's the ultimate expression of project-based learning. It's saying, don't tell me you are smart, show me what you have built. It's shifting from being a consumer of education to a producer of value.
That is incredibly inspiring, but I want to pause here. Because while we are talking about building startups and optimizing Ivy League odds, there is another reality in our source stack that we cannot ignore. It feels irresponsible to talk about masterpieces without talking about the foundation.
You are referring to the Iowa HHS screening tools.
Exactly. Not every family is in a position to optimize for a masterpiece project. Some are just trying to survive. This source lists assessment tools for fiscal year 2026, and they are sobering.
This is the foundation we often forget. You cannot have high-level project-based learning if you don't have food security. The hunger vitals sign mentioned is a simple 2-question screen for food insecurity. It's incredibly basic, but essential.
And the employment hope scale, I found this one fascinating. It measures psychological self-sufficiency.
That is a crucial concept. It's not measuring your skills, it's measuring your hope, your goal orientation. Do you believe you can navigate the workforce? If that score is low, no amount of technical training will help until you rebuild that agency.
Then there is the Casey Lice Skills Assessment for 14 to 21-year-olds. It asks practical questions. Can you manage money? Can you maintain housing?
This connects back to our learner profile. Structure helps everyone, but we have to recognize that for some, structure means ensuring basic safety and caloric intake. For others, it means organizing a complex project. But the principle remains. You cannot build the upper floors of the house if the foundation is cracking.
So let's assume we have the foundation. We have the skills. We are looking toward the future. It is 2026. What does the world of work actually look like? We have reports from D2L and IOPEX that paint a very specific picture of the next 4 years leading up to 2030.
The D2L report on higher education trends for 2026 highlights that we are past the pilot phase of AI. It is full implementation now.
And degrees are changing. They're talking about micro-credentials.
Stackable skills. The idea of a 4-year degree being the end of your learning is dead. You need to constantly stack new certifications on top of your existing knowledge. The degree is just the platform. The credentials are the apps you install on it.
And sustainability is huge now. It's a regulatory issue affecting university rankings and student choices.
But the IOPEX report is where we see the rubber meet the road for the workforce. They use this term, super work.
Super work. It sounds like a comic book, but they are very serious. They quote Alvin Toffler. The illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn.
That is the mantra. Superwork is defined as human intellect amplified by AI, and they tackle the fear head-on. There is a prediction here. AI will displace 92 million jobs.
That sounds terrifying.
But it will create 170 million new ones. That is a net gain of 78 million jobs. The question is, what are those jobs?
The report calls the new role the agent manager or orchestration leadership.
This is the key shift. We are moving from doing the work to orchestrating the work. The human defines the goal, sets the guardrails, and the AI does the heavy lifting.
They gave a great example of this, an HR system that cuts onboarding time by 83%.
Right. Or a purchasing agent bot that saved 600,000 work hours. The AI handles the process. The human handles the exception.
So what skills does the human need? If the AI is writing the code and filling the forms, what am I doing?
3 things. First, critical thinking. You have to vet the AI's output. If you can't spot a hallucination or a strategic error, you are dangerous. Second, empathy. AI cannot navigate the emotional currents of a sensitive negotiation.
And the third one.
Domain expertise. This is counterintuitive. People think AI means you don't need to know things. The opposite is true. AI knows the process, but humans know the context. You need to understand the regulatory nuance in a clinical trial to know if the AI is right.
The deep expert becomes more valuable, not less.
Exactly, because they are the only ones who can effectively orchestrate the AI.
This brings us full circle. We started with a Kanban board in the kitchen.
Think about that workflow. A child looks at a board, sees a task, claims it, executes it, and moves it to done. They are practicing autonomy, they are practicing project management.
Then they go to school, where they engage in project-based learning. They aren't just memorizing. They are building masterpieces. They're solving real problems.
And then they enter the workforce of 2030. And what is their job? To look at a dashboard of AI agents, assign tasks, monitor progress, and intervene when things get complex.
They are essentially running a giant high-tech Kanban board of AI agents.
It is the same skill set. From the refrigerator to the cloud. We are training the orchestrators of the future right now at the breakfast table.
That is a powerful way to look at it. It makes the struggle of getting the dishwasher loaded feel a little more meaningful.
And I want to leave us with one final thought from that employment hope scale.
Mm.
In a world of massive automation where machines can do the what and the how, the most distinctly human asset might simply be hope. The ability to set a goal and believe you can reach it. That psychological self-sufficiency is the fuel that powers the whole engine.
That is a great place to land. So, here's my question for you, the listener. If AI can handle the what and the how of your daily tasks, from your inbox to your grocery list, are you actually ready to take responsibility for the why? Because that is the one thing the machine can't do for you.
That is the question of the decade.
Thanks for diving in with us. We'll catch you next time.